Romanian deadlift. Very similar to a stiff-legged deadlift. And at the end of this video, I'm going to explain what are the differences. But first, let me show you the exercise. You stand with your feet about shoulder width, and then you press your hips back. Chin tucked, and this whole complex remains straight. A couple of common mistakes. So first off, this movement is all about your hips. It's about how far back you can get them. It's a horizontal movement, which means that you're really trying to push your hips as far back as you can. Obviously, this is going to be, for me, that's going to be the end of the range of motion. And then that's the movement. A lot of people mess this up because they start thinking about vertical movement and how far down you can get. And this leads to some issues. So let me show you a couple of common mistakes. So mistake number one is trying to get as far low as you can, in which case this is now my lower back taking over. See this? There's barely any movement in my hips. My hips are not moving back horizontally. Basically everything is happening from the lower back. That's not good. Another common mistake is excessive knee bending. So again, this goes into trying to get as low as you can. So what people do is something like this, which is a squat. It's not a deadlift. And lastly, what's the difference between a Romanian deadlift and a stiff-legged deadlift? As the name suggests, with a stiff-legged deadlift, there's going to be barely any movement in your knee. Your legs are going to be stiff. You don't need to keep them completely locked. So keep your knees soft. But as you're moving down, notice how this whole thing, my upper and my lower leg, they get pushed back as well. So they move as a sort of a single unit. Again, keep them soft, don't lock them in place. Whereas with the Romanian deadlift, your shins, your lower leg is going to remain firmly planted, it's going to remain static. And as I'm pressing my hips back, see how there's more degree and more range of motion here in my knee joint, as opposed to a stiff-legged deadlift where my knees and my shins are moving back and forth. So this is the Romanian deadlift. Lower legs remain static. That's the main difference. And of course, with the Romanian deadlift, you're going to get a little bit more glute/butt engagement, whereas with the stiff-legged deadlift, the focus is going to be more on the hamstrings. But both these exercises are very similar. And very last tip, if your grip is failing, so you cannot hold on to the dumbbells and you feel like you're going to drop them, use some wrist straps to strap yourself to the dumbbell, and your forearm muscles are now no longer going to be an issue.